What's up? About to go live. Hang in there. Hit that like, everybody. Share the show. It annoys the maggots around you. All right, let me get started. Hold on. So much going on. All right, well, hold on. Let's just see. Let's just see, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you right out of the gate. I'm just going to jump straight in here. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide. I'm Hal Sparks. I'll be Hal Sparksing the rest of the evening. Let me fade down the music and raise your hand in the chat room, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let me bring you up on here. Ladies and gentlemen, raise your hand in the chat room if you installed 3 light fixtures today, just out of the goodness of your heart, for somebody, just doing a little electrical work, climbing up on a ladder, putting my hands above my head, messing around with wires that may or may not be live. We don't know. But I'm not scared. I know how a, a wall panel works. I can flip a breaker and watch to see if the lights go off. I don't trust anybody else to do it, but I'll do it myself. You're goddamn right. But yeah, some folks out there, you've done it before. Some of you are doing it for you're thinking about it and you're like, I don't know. That's the proper feeling to have if you don't know what you're doing, which brings me to DOGE is a heist. A bunch of these folks over at the DOGE bags, and we have a list of them. And I'm going to, if you'll allow me a couple of days of research and breakdown, I'm going to craft as best I can a presentation that introduces you to all the known DOGE workers that are out there. Okay. I'm going to gather all the stuff I can find anywhere. And I'm going to, hold on, yeah, that's good. Okay. I'm going to gather all the names, anybody who's shown up at any of these events who allegedly are part of the DOGE maniacs, the DOGE bags, and we're going to go through all of them. We're gonna introduce them to the world. Now, I have so much to cover today, and as it would happen, I have a tendency. Let me put this in the background. Yeah, let's put this up here. There you go. I have a tendency when I'm doing stuff, like when I was doing electrical work earlier today, as I am wont to do. By the way, everything worked. Just saying, all the lights worked. No fires. No. Yeah, there was an issue with grounding at one point, but that was due to the fact that there were literally 4 ground wires in this crappy old wiring, and I managed to consolidate them, solve that issue. That said, still didn't affect. Still, everything worked. Just saying, right out of the gate. But I play music while I'm doing highly complicated things. I don't know if you guys do this. And it's almost, you know how like when I have problems on the show and I'll get a bit like this and I start going, oh, well, that's a problem. I'll get my British accent out when things go sideways, right? When things are a bit fucked up, I'm like, uh-oh, there we're having issues. This menu is not clicking where it's supposed to. I've got a freeze. The image is not where it should be. That kind of, I tend to do that when I run into those issues. When I'm doing very complicated electronic work, whether I am building a robot, which I have done 3 times now, or putting together a 3D printer, which I have built 3 of those, the Delta one I don't count because it didn't work. And I think it was just because it was shit to start with, and it was really just an experiment. I wasn't counting on it working, but it never, and the software for it was ass, so I could never figure out what was wrong with it. But it was just fun putting it together. And when I do that kind of stuff, the more dangerous the job, the sillier the music. Work with me on this. That if I'm just doing something that requires some brute force and whatever, and I'm just sawing shit and whatever, straight up metal, my kind of music, the stuff I listen to all the time. If I'm doing something where I'm like, this could lead, if things don't go quite my way, to my perhaps untimely death. I could get electrocuted or whatever. The music gets really yacht rocky and in serious. Today it was Hall & Oates' greatest hits, or I think it was iTunes calls them essentials. And some stuff will be like the mid zone is like lighter Prince fare. Things like Dinner with Dolores and songs like that. That not Housequake, which is very invigorating, and you might have the urge to like go like that and pull a wire, and while it's happening, you might housequake yourself into an early grave. So but I'll play like little, light fare, easy listening, Prince's jazzier stuff, whatever. 120 volts only wakes you up. That's true. It will knock you across the room. Actually, my biggest worry when wiring, because I've had it a couple of houses that I've worked on that were very old, and the wiring was messed up, and so the breaker that should have been this room, one outlet is not wired from. It's another cable coming from God knows where. People experience this all the time. That's why you have a voltage tester. Always use those. If you can't see the lights, go out yourself when you flip the breaker. But I and my buddy Tommy Atabe, both of us have been knocked off of a ladder, pow, just like by the shock of something like hitting it. And my big worry is sparks going in my eyes more than anything else in those moments, less the shock. I feel like maybe stupidly so that I would survive it, even though perhaps I wouldn't. I do feel like that the biggest worry is like hot, molten light going into my eyeballs. That close would be fucked up. Anyways, so I have, as serious as stuff gets, the lighter it gets. And then when I'm all done, then I'm like, okay, what was I doing? It's like my life goes on pause because the seriousness of the circumstance and the light sort of fabric of the music that I'm listening to, it's like you're in a time bubble. And then I come back out of that electro stupor and find that we're still in this like Earth 9 horseshit alternate reality. And I will start to get kind of back into what I have to do for the show, and this is a little behind the scenes. That's it's necessary. You guys should know this. When I'm doing stand-up on the road, one of the things I do to get myself energized for doing stand-up when you're on the road, because especially if you're doing the same set or you're working on a set and you're trying to put it together and stuff, you're always fighting the kind of boredom of your own material and trying to invigorate yourself, and especially if you have multiple shows a night and you got to it's a job like anything else, but you got to you want to make this audience doesn't know that. They deserve every bit the show that the great show last night was. No matter who you are, who gives a shit what your day was like? They came on Saturday, not Friday. It's not their fault, right? Show up, do your thing. So what do you do to get yourself in the mood? Now, a lot of my fellow comedians will drink or snort something. I don't do any of those things. But I do the next best thing, which is I listen to AM radio preachers. Man, oh man, if you are driving around the South or, whoops, why did my monitor blinked? Stop it. If you're driving around the South, especially, or rural areas, and you're between gigs as a comedian, nothing will get you wound up and irritated like listening to some local TV preachers on AM radio. Every time, it always goes the same way. It starts out with, you know what? I'm too hard on these assholes. They're just trying to get people to act nicely towards each other. They're teaching the words of Jesus. And they just want people to, get along and have the peace on earth and goodwill towards men and da-da-da-da. And then if you keep listening for, 8 minutes, the sale comes. And you go, oh, right. I'm not listening to someone talking about their religious beliefs. These guys have a show, and the show is to sell something, and the selling of something is more important than the believing of the thing. And you motherfuckers, it happens every time. And I get, from that point on, when I realize, oh, these guys are selling a tape program or a book or trying to get you to go to one of their fucking retreats for $500 or whatever. As soon as you realize that, then everything they say after it just gets me fucking, I just get irritated. Whew. I'm like, and by the time I get to the club, I'm like, let me at them. Even if I'm not talking about those guys or what I heard on there, I'm so aggravated that it infuses everything I'm doing with a genuine level of that aggravation, which is the energy you need to punch through sometimes when you're doing talking for a living. So when I'm in, the other side of Vegas, there's not necessarily an AM preacher channel that I'm aware of in town. And if there was one, because it's nearby, it's not quite the same effect. So I didn't really, I don't listen to that. So there are other things that no matter what I do, if I listen to them, a couple minutes in, I'm just livid. And one of them is relatively new, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hal Sparks, Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Share the show out. One of them is this guy, Peanut Butter Dickhead. Patrick Bet David, who is hyphenate. Bet David is hyphenated, and I don't know why he just doesn't go with PB. But I didn't know what his name was for a long time, and PBD just sounded like Peanut Butter Dickhead to me, so it stuck. This is the Peanut Butter Dickhead podcast, and I don't know the guy he has on him, but on with him, there's like 4 or 5 rotating assholes they have on the show, and it's hilarious, and none of them know what the fuck they're talking about, and the big problem they all seem to have is they can't figure out why Trump won't release all the Epstein files. Racking their brains. What could possibly be maybe he knows somebody on the list. That's the best thing come. So you're starting to get the picture. Makes my anyways. So there is also a secondary trend going on in right-wing media right now, in that these assholes are somewhere between the dog that caught the car and nothing to complain about. They've got the House, they've got the Senate, they've got the presidency. Trump is saying and doing everything that they want, even the stuff that they didn't realize they wanted, and it sounds bad, but it must be good because he's saying it. And so they're all eating themselves, is what I'm saying. Like they've run out of, things to bitch about on the Democratic side. Even like Al Green standing up and going, "You don't have a mandate," or whatever. Or some Democrats leaving because Trump was being a piggish dickhead and whatever. It still isn't enough, right? It's none of them were like they didn't all stand up and like clap and go "fuck you" and then walk out. It wasn't a big enough thing where you can make news of it. It's just like, okay, a couple of them didn't want to see it. The rest of them sat quietly. They held up signs, disagreed. They applauded for Ukraine. Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's nothing really that they could latch on to, right? But they got to do it. They have to latch onto something. There's got to be a villain out there somewhere. And if the Democrats aren't supplying them with the villainy that they need, they're going to find it someplace else. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, where we start today with the enigma that is Amy Coney Barrett. Now, everybody knows that she was hired for one job, which was to eliminate a woman's right to choose and turn women into second-class citizens, and she's done that job, and now she's coasting. She can rule on the rest of the shit any way she wants, I guess. But apparently the word on the street is, and this is, and I'd like to, is this, yeah, this isn't the only place this is showing up. This is Tim Drool. Look at the picture of her and this as he's walking by. Her looking at him is a story. It's a big story. There's a big thing going on. So let me show you. This is, and you're going to think this is petty. And you're absolutely right. And you're going to think this is like misguided and oddly paranoid. And you're right. But check this out. This is where the current state of affairs over there. Also, I got to tell you, these assholes are not taking phone calls. Why are they wearing headphones? Why? What the fuck? You're not in a DJing competition, and you're not in the booth of a high school football game. Drop the headphones, you Rogan wannabe dickheads. Stop it. I don't understand. I have earbuds because I don't want feedback from my microphone into the clips I'm playing. You don't have that problem. You're in an open studio. They can play clips and mute in between You have an engineer right there. They can stop. There's software that stops the feedback happening in these situations on a bigger studio when you're that far away from the stuff. Like, it's lazy. It's lazy. Okay, that enough. All right, I know. Okay, check this out. Think about, well, you'll see.
Kavanaugh, but look at her. Go to it one more time, Rob, please.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me roll this back.
And you know what he said, which was fantastic? He says, if you're teaching these things in school, federal funding stops.
Yep.
Federal funding stops. I don't know if you have that.
He's talking about LGBT stuff and transgender stuff or whatever. Nobody's teaching transgenderism in school. Being accepting of someone who exists is not the same as teaching that thing. But if you're a dough-headed asshole like these guys, then, of course, that's what you're going to do.
Clip or not.
I'll find that.
And then he says something so powerful that every parent relates to. You know what it was? Kids are perfect just the way that God created them.
Yes, he did. I remember.
What
that was a
a
great one.
beautiful thing to say.
Sorry. So I'd like to remind you, this is the crowd that says we need to start spanking children again. Corporal punishment. The world went to shit when we stopped beating kids. Let's understand that. Secondly, you have to civilize children. You have to teach them. They don't automatically share stuff. No, anybody who's had a preschooler knows that there's not this just like, oh my God, kids just want to give whatever they have to everybody. No, they've been raised right. They do. If they haven't, they will bite your kid. And again, their perfection in an innate sense, biologically, in a kind of Deepak Chopra, oh my God, the numbers of chemical interactions that are happening in your body is a miracle. Yeah, that's true. But it also doesn't mean you're automatically not going to grow up. Like, I don't know, just wind him up and see if he turns into a school shooter. Who gives a shit?
You know who relates to that? What percentage of parents you think relate to that? What percentage?
0. I think my son is perfect in his existence, but I still have to craft his behavior and make sure that he's not being led astray by peanut butter dickhead in that crowd.
Parents sit there and say,
vast majority.
100%. The number
90.
is a close to 100%,
Yeah.
95%. The 5% are the ones that bailed on their kids, who don't care about it. But vast majority are saying that's exactly right. That's not a Democratic or Republican or an independent position. That's an evergreen position.
Not the way he's saying it, though, because he had, again, this is their anti-trans stuff. Never mind. Let's get to what they're really worried about. And again, this is them seeking a villain, and they can't find one.
But there was one moment, which was kind of weird, Rob. Can you pull up the clip that Amy Coney Barrett, that David Harris Jr. posted? I want to know, Rob, what do you think about this? Tom, I want to get your thoughts as well. First, go back, Rob, and let's read what he put in the captions, if you don't mind. Do you have it on what he says? It's
who was the commentator?
Are supporting now? It's certainly.
Also, can I just say real quick? Since Peanut Butter Dickhead has basically turned his thing into the sportscaster version of the Joe Rogan Experience, that's what he's trying to do here. And they've got this weird, I don't know why they have a dance floor. Maybe in a future episode, we'll all find out. I don't know why they're all crunched up in the corner against the backdrop. I don't know why the fucking bank vault look where you sign the locker door. What is that? I mean, this is like the, I was about to say IKEA, but it's not even. It's like the Office Max version of the InfoWars desk. I don't know why there's a light blue stripe on it. Nobody does, except that matches the light blue in this, but nobody still knows that. I don't know why this is a bunch of marble. I don't know why there's memorabilia and hats and shit over here and bank stuff over here. I don't know. Are they in a decrepit old bank in the basement because they're not allowed in the house? Anyways, it used to be him and one other guy, and now it's like like he's got to be on all day long to make the show watchable or something. So it's just a pile of fucking dudes in a rotation.
Not America. David Harris also said the fact that no wonder she always votes against him. Okay, look at the way Amy Coney Barrett looks at the president on Tuesday night. Go for it.
Ugh.
Whoa.
She hates
Go back to it again, Rob.
Wait, real quick. In her defense, if I may, there's a very strong chance he broke wind as he walked by her. That, she may be disgusted by him, but it might just be that dude stinks. He smells bad. And there's that moment where some people can hide it, or maybe, alcoholism has burned out Brett Kavanaugh's olfactory senses, but she definitely has, a functioning nose. Could just be that. But think about how, paranoid and weird you have to be to fixate on this.
The president on Tuesday night. Go for it.
Ugh.
Whoa.
Also, real quick, it looks to me like she's looking past him, that she's not actually looking at Trump. So don't get me wrong. I love their paranoia and I love them wasting everyone's time. But watch, it looks like she's looking at somebody just past him. See that? Like her eyes aren't focused on him. It looks like somebody who's here.
Ugh.
Like whoever that is, or over here. And even still, completely justified in thinking he's disgusting. Now,
Whoa.
She hates
Go back to it again, Rob. Go back to it again. Look at this. If you read body language, look at that. He's complimentary, Kavanaugh, but look at her. Go to it one more time, Rob, please. And pause right there. Look at that
That's
smirk.
disgust.
That's disgust.
That's hate.
hey, real quick. Oh, well, let him finish the thought.
Why do you think, Tom?
Who put her on the
Appoint
bench? Didn't he appoint her? Yeah.
He what?
Who put her on the bench?
He did.
I
He
know,
did.
but why? What happened?
What happened? Maybe I got a good one. How about this? So there's been some legal wranglings about whether or not certain evidence against Jeffrey Epstein, for example, in the SDNY in the federal court in the state of New York, can be given to Congress or to other people, even though there may be an appeal that goes through it. And the Supreme Court, it won't shock anyone to find out, can get an early look at stuff if they need to possibly make a ruling on it in the future. So they can look at what's in front of them, but they can also have access to almost any case that could be coming for the case. Anything that's been adjudicated or settled or closed temporarily, they can look at it if they want to. And they can fold it into their whatever ruling they may or may not make in the future. They may just read it to just keep themselves up on the state of affairs around certain issues. So it's very possible that Amy Coney Barrett has seen a bunch of the Epstein shit. I mean, just if you're looking for an explanation as to why she might look at Trump and be totally fucking disgusted. I mean, Occam's razor being what it is.
Do you guys know anything about what happened there?
Are there actual stories or are we just speculating?
You're just speculating.
I have some thoughts.
Go for it.
So remember, what happened in this country during the Kavanaugh confirmation here is completely ridiculous,
Sure,
right? They're dragging them under the mud. But remember that there were all these leftist protesters that were being activated that were at Kavanaugh's home. This is what I believe, because Amy Coney Barrett consistently votes against, the conservatives, Trump's agenda, et cetera. I think that she's being threatened privately. I think that a lot of very bad people know where she lives, and I think that she lives under the constant fear of that. That's what I...
Okay, you're an asshole. Let's just be abundantly clear. Fuck you, dude. That's just... if that's what's happening, and she's under constant fear of the threat, she wouldn't even look at him then. She would know, oh my God, they will see my disgust, and therefore... What are they threatening her with? If she's already voting against him, they should like her. If they want to kill her because she's voting against him, then they're maggots. So she wouldn't dare look at him in a way that would make assholes like you draw attention to it. Okay, not the only version of this. And again, it makes a lot of sense that, Tim Pool is looking at his own, I suppose, his own reflection, the way Amy Coney Barrett is looking at Trump. like somebody's holding a small turd under his nose. Let's see, shall we? Trump caught on hot mic, says Democrats. Wild conspiracy erupts after Trump thanks SCOTUS. That's this part of it.
President Donald Trump was caught on a hot mic, ladies and gentlemen. He never saw it coming, and this proves everything. Oh, yeah, we got him. We got him, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till I play this audio for you. It's going to blow your minds. Look at this.
This would be, I think, sarcasm is what he's attempting to do. This was where he said, thanks a lot, I won't forget it, or something that he, was it Alito or, yeah.
Mail with the exclusive. Trump's hot mic moment with Supreme Court Justice sparks wild conspiracy theories, and he issues a response.
And as, I mean, it's okay, just a written word and that has a totally different meaning, but.
I can't believe it. I can't believe Trump let this one slip. He didn't realize he was mic'd up or there was a mic on these people, and he actually had the nerve to say
He wasn't mic'd up and there wasn't a mic on these people. The Supreme Court aren't mic'd up during a joint session of Congress, and Trump speaks into a mic while he's up there. He's not wearing a lapel mic. It's the hot mic would be the phone that was recording him.
Things. Wait till you hear this. Roll tape.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Howard, thank you again. Thank you again. Won't forget. So good. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, wait.
Thank you again. Thank you again.
Did you hear that?
So good.
Did you hear that? He said, thank you. I'm not kidding. Trump shook a Supreme Court justice's hand and said, thank you very much. Won't forget it. We got him. This is exactly what we needed. That proves everything. Take a look at this. From the Huffington Post, Donald Trump rips the mask off of John Roberts' court in one sentence.
Yeah, by the way, he goes, thanks again, won't forget it. Meaning that they had another conversation where he thanked him about whatever they were talking about, and he's doing it again, and I guess he thinks they're in tow.
Bang! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. By saying thank you, he proved that there's a deep conspiracy from the court to back Donald Trump or something. Okay, I'll drop the act, obviously. Is it? Are you for real? That's not a hot mic moment. Oh, man. How many? I imagine.
Well, that solves it. Good work, Tim. I feel like you've peeled back the covering on this. You've removed the mask and you've unmasked the desperation of the left, and Huffington Post for noticing that he said thanks again, won't forget it, to not to one of the court members that voted against him on stuff, but one that basically handed him immunity. And God knows whatever else they're talking about. Obviously, he's not talking about USAID funding, which he obviously has forgotten about because they ruled against him.
That new viewers to this channel are going, wait, what's going on? Maybe some liberals got.
That's funny. New viewers. Tim's got new viewers, everyone. Yeah. That may be the most ludicrous thing he says this whole clip.
Roped into that one for a second. Dude, are you kidding? Donald Trump said thank you very much. That's it? Yo, I thought the hot.
No, it isn't. That's it. He said thanks again, and I won't forget it, as if he's referencing a favor. That's why it triggered people. That's why it caused all this conspiratorial talk, because it sounds fucking sketchy. And you fucking know that if Biden had said to any of the SCOTUS people, thanks again, I won't forget it, they're like, that means Hunter's not going to be, but they're throwing it all away. He's protected up at the top. He knows they're going to throw the case his way, right? They would all be screaming conspiracy about this. So again, you have to have a standard before you can have a double standard. And Tim has neither. I don't know what's going on here, but I want to get to the Amy Coney Barrett stuff because I think he digs into that.
When
shit.
I see this headline from the Huffington Post, rips the mask off John Roberts' court in one sentence, I'm like, wow, what did he say? I thought Trump was going to be on a hot mic, leaning in and whispering something like, you did a good job in that ruling. Thank you. I'll take care of you. Or something like that. Something like.
Yeah, that's basically the paraphrase of exactly what he said, asshole. I won't forget it. Sounds like I'm not gonna let it. I'll do you a favor later. I'm gonna remember that you did something for me. And since every relationship he has is transactional, fuckwad, you just explained it.
He said, won't forget it. And I'm sitting here being like, what? Did like John Roberts give him a tie or something? Like,
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump ahead to the fucking Amy Coney Barrett stuff, because I want to see his fucking. He's just gonna ramble about this stuff, and then he's gonna reference his trial. Mention about the head of DOGE immediately came back to on administration court filing. Okay, blah blah blah. I want to. Yeah, here we go. So this is Amy Coney Barrett shows the danger of Republican DEI. Yeah, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy Coney Barrett is a DEI hire. And if DOGE could get rid of her, they would.
Talk about where we're currently at with the Supreme Court and what Trump
You mean where we currently are?
actually thinks. Take a look at this image. Amy Coney Barrett gave Trump a look as he walked past.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I know. You're going, Hal, didn't he just do this whole thing of like, how dare they take what he said and blow it out of proportion? And isn't it an exaggeration of, that there's some sort of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours thing going in there, which is exactly what people presume from that language. And it's exactly what Tim Pool's like. If he just said something like this, when he said exactly something like that, you're like, that seems curious that all of a sudden words Trump said that sounded like a reciprocal favor situation with one of the SCOTUS's is too much. We're drawing too many conclusions. But Amy Coney Barrett looks to her right like this when, in all honesty, we know Trump stinks. We know he smells bad. We know he smells like shit. And that would have been reason enough. That would have been reason enough. I would also like to point out that there's not a camera directly on Kavanaugh at this point in this angle, but Kavanaugh doesn't look that pleased to see him either. So I'm going with, yeah.
And what's that flat smirk? Then she turns away and then she looks back. I wonder what she was thinking. I think.
Gee, I don't know. It's been a long time since I was in 8th grade. And so my paranoid reading of women's body language is I'm out of practice.
People are reading too deeply into it to be, to be honest. But here's what Jack Posobiec writes. For Human Events, he says.
Oh, so you think people are reading too much into it. So Jack Posobiec is being an asshole? Cool.
When Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed to the Supreme Court in 2020, conservatives cheered. Here was a devout Catholic, a mother of 7, a supposed originalist in the
All right, why? Hey, asshole, why are you reading Posobiec's stuff? You either agree with it or you don't. You can paraphrase what he said. Again, it's one thing when I have to look up a piece of news and they reference something and we have to read the article together because they're not diving into it. But why there's a real trend in right-wing media with people reading other people's tweets and going, huh? Proof. And I got to say, it's lazy. It's all getting very lazy. You guys are not the bootstrapping America first people I was promised. You all seem to be piggybacking or human centipeding on the work of other people. Grow some nuts and just use AI and take credit, you lazy fuck. All right. That said, if I may, chat room, he brought up the fact that Amy Coney Barrett is Catholic and that's a big deal. Now, do you guys remember, I don't know, remember the last time we had a Catholic president? You guys remember? You guys remember we had a Catholic president? Sometime after Kennedy, there was another one, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out who that might have been. But he went to Mass every Sunday, and he went to visit his son's grave. His name escapes me at this moment. But yes, that's what it was. Joseph Robinette Biden. Right, that's right. And sorry, when you look at the ceiling, that's very strange. Look at the ceiling. Curious. Apparently, it's the sound coming out of my neck. that doesn't get directly there. Here, I'll move the mic closer and I'll reposition it so that, yeah, so it'll be like a radio style. All right. So anybody remember, like we would occasionally see him on when it was Ash Wednesday and he would have ash on his forehead. And there were occasionally people that were also in the White House that would also do it, but there was like just a dab. You're like, it so much so that you were like, this almost looks like a smudge. Like it didn't look like they got an ashen cross on their forehead by a priest. It looked like they just had dirt on their face, which, as someone who crawls around under his own desk trying to make the show happen on time quite often, guilty. Yeah. That happens to me, right? But during that time, did you see a bunch of people on the right with well, shit. Here, I'll show you. This or this. Anybody remember Judge Janine looking like she just joined like the smudge version of the Manson family? So what was the deal? When did they just avoid cameras when they had that because the president's Catholic? You know, because Biden was Catholic and they didn't want to be seen as aligned with him in any way. And now that Trump's in or whatever, like this is the most to the point. It's borderline cartoonish. Like this is South Park quality art at this point. And by the way, if you get ashes on your forehead for Ash Wednesday and that's part of your belief system, more power to you. Good for you. I think it's a wonderful thing. Those kind of rituals, I'm all good with it. Right? No harm, no foul. You're just showing your belief system. You maybe you wear it on your sleeve part of the time. You wear a cross or something like that. But on this particular day, nobody can. Everybody knows you're Catholic. That's the whole point of Ash Wednesday. You're walking around all day with a big cross put there by a priest on your forehead, like, I didn't know you were Catholic, but I sure as shit do now, right? Let's understand that that's what it's for. It is a symbol, and it is symbolic specifically for a reason. All good, right? You're allowed to do it. But it's curious to me that while Biden's president and he's Catholic and he's got it on his forehead for that, the rest of these assholes are like taking a day off, not showing up for work so they don't have to be seen, with the same ash mark that he has. Just doesn't seem like it's in line with the teachings. Seems a bit on the nose, right? Now, this, and Janine's whole thing is like they're all jumping on this idea that Trump parades this kid out who had brain surgery right in the same week he's killing funding for pediatric brain surgery and uses this kid for cover. It's not the kid's fault. And everybody not standing up it's not that they're not standing up for this kid. They kind of, by sitting down, they're not bowing to him using this kid as a symbol for something that he's not. This kid and his dad, lovely. Good for him. I'm glad it's very exciting for him. But it doesn't change the fact that Trump is using him as basically a human shield, as he did everybody else who was there, holding up the name of the declaration where he named a park after this girl that was killed because he wants credit for. And by the way, but I'm fairly certain both of I don't want to say both. So I know for sure Laken Riley's killer was Venezuelan, but I'm not sure about the guy who he might have been Guatemalan, but the guy who killed the woman's child who was killed in the park and all that kind of stuff. And they're naming the park after her. The last thing Trump did when he left office in 2021 was to put a hold on deportations of Venezuelans for a year and a half, 18 months. And then even at that point, they'd be put at the back of the line with everybody else who might be being deported. And that would include the person that killed Laken Riley. So that guy in his deportation and his hearing and stuff would be put way behind everybody else from Venezuela or from Guatemala or any of these other places. So the idea that Trump gives a shit is absurd. He specifically did this because he was counting on the fact that the Wagner Group was running people through Venezuela into the United States, and that these people were ditching their credentials, saying they were from Venezuela, and then he was hoping something awful would happen and he could blame it on Biden's open borders. That's the goal, right? By the way, one of the reasons why there's so few people crossing the border right now, well, number one, it isn't the wall. The wall doesn't work. Let's be abundantly clear. If you want more proof that Trump's wall was a big fucking boondoggle, a waste of materials and effort, if you want proof it doesn't work, look at how many people he has to send to the border to stabilize it. Look how many, like, you literally need to send an army down there because the wall doesn't work. In the same way that, like, he's got to put tariffs on Canada and Mexico because USMCA, his great trade deal, sucks. Doesn't work. If it worked, why would he need to slap tariffs of this size on them? I thought we had a trade deal. They're living up to their side of it. You're not living up to yours. Apparently, it's a shit deal. Why would you need tariffs if you have USMCA, unless USMCA was written with crayons and hammers and sucks ass? And the same thing is true of the wall. If the wall works and it was great, and finally we have a wall, if that's all you needed, why do you need all the troops? And all the people are saying the president had the power under Biden to do whatever he wanted. He could send these troops down. Well, first of all, you have to declare a medical emergency, which is temporary, unless you want COVID to come back all over again. So no. If you want this to be a permanent state, you're going to have to fund it. Even if it's just for a year or a year and a half, you got to fund it, which is why the Republican Senate bill adds $340 billion, including, $200 billion for the troops that are going to the border to secure the border, right? That's what they're going there for. So that's the part you would need Congress for, that Biden and everybody was talking about. You could declare an emergency, but it's going to go away. You're going to run out of funding, and you're going to have to take that funding from somewhere else. And you want Congress and Senate to step up and pay for it. They haven't done that yet in the House and the Senate, but Trump's pretending they already have. They haven't. They will, as soon as they pass a bill that funds the stuff he's doing at the border, past the emergency phase, then you will see, okay, that's what Biden was talking about. That's the issue. All right. So wall doesn't work. Troops are proof. And he knew that the DOGE cuts are fucking with people. So he brought up a bunch of people to hide behind, including this kid and the people who've lost family members to migrant crime and the like. Just saying. He's using them. And so when you don't stand up and applaud, it has nothing to do with the kid. It has everything to do with the fact that you're not going to participate in this asshole covering his own problems with innocent people. That's why you stay seated. That's why you don't say anything. So, anyways, we know what she's going to say. Marco Rubio, there you go. Okay, now, insofar as nobody cares, insofar as what's going on in Congress and in the in the real world, not in the presentation world. Now, this is a PR stunt. We'll get to that in a second. J.D. Vance, Hegseth, and Tulsi Gabbard went down to the border because, nothing says you're on top of it and trust the intel that you're getting, and you are busy organizing a response like standing in front of a section of wall that's been secured for you so that you can do a press conference. This is their J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, and Tulsi Gabbard assure unified effort to secure the southern border. First of all, I thought it already was, right? Magically. So clearly, they're referencing what I'm talking about, which is they're going to need funding. The Pentagon's going to need funding added to this because their money is spoken for. The intelligence community is going to need funding because their funding is spoken for. Even if you cut off all aid to Ukraine, it's not going to pay for any of this shit. It's just gone. Just no more going out the door, but that doesn't automatically mean it goes to wherever you want it. And then, of course, I don't know what the fuck Vance is doing down there other than Trump doesn't like him around the White House when Musk is there because they snicker behind his back.
Some bad news and some good news. And the bad news is that because of what Joe Biden did at the southern border for 4 years, we had record increases in migrant crime, in fentanyl deaths, and in just floods and floods of people who shouldn't be in our country who came into the United States of America. We also have...
Okay, first of all, no, we didn't have a spike in migrant crime. You drew attention to it. But it wasn't at a higher rate or an extraordinary spike of these kind of things. Again, if there would be too many of them for you to even single out one to name the bill after. The fact that you know Laken Riley and you know her story proves that there is not, again, name one of the victims from Columbine or Parkland off the top of your head. You know the environment that these things happened in because the volume of deaths and injuries were so high. You know them by the name of the incident. See what I mean? Okay.
A number of ways in which the cartels became more advanced, better war fighters because Joe Biden opened up the American southern border and allowed...
Why would they have to be, quote, better war fighters with an open border? They didn't start shooting at anybody until Trump allegedly closed it, right? And even then, were they really shooting at people that they thought were Customs and Border Patrol? Were they even cartels that were shooting at them? Or they were just kind of disgruntled assholes who were drunk with guns? Nobody knows. Nobody says. But we'll assume it's a war between the cartels, and that's because they're afraid of how macho Trump is.
Cartels to turn it into their playground. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is, as President Trump said last night at the State of the Union, it turns out we didn't need new laws. We didn't need fancy legislation. We just need...
See, hear that, Senate? You don't have to add the $200 billion to the budget for all this stuff to pay all the people who've been laying down razor wire and hanging up this shit or whatever. You don't need it. They don't need it. You don't need that bill. He just said so. You don't need it. He'll just take the money from the VA or from, the support services for, people who live on base or wherever. They'll just grab billions of dollars from other places and they'll just shuffle it around. How about that?
A new president of the United States, and thank God that's exactly what we have. And I will say that the most heartening message that I take...
By the way, we also don't have a new president. First, he's old as fuck. Second, he's been here before. There's nothing new about any of it. As a matter of fact, everything he's doing is a double down from the first time, which didn't work.
Away from my visit here at the Texas border is the number of Border Patrol agents who have come up to me and said thank you, or said because of this, we've cut the number of border crossings from 1,500 a day to 30 a day. Or the people who have come up and said we've seen a reduction in 85% of the number of people who are dying at the American southern border. And every single day that we continue.
Also, that's because they're dying elsewhere. Again, the wall gives everybody an access road to private land where the Border Patrol aren't the people that come clean that up because nobody knows, there's no Border Patrol ambulance specifically for migrants. If you find a dead body on your property, in Texas someplace, you don't call CPB, you call the morgue or the police or whatever.
To keep this border safe, that means less migrant crime, that means less fentanyl coming into our communities, that means more safety and security for the people of the United States of America. And of course, we know.
Also, by the way, I would like to point out, there is an element of, and we can argue about the war on drugs at some point in the future. I would argue that the war on drugs wasn't a failure. The war on drugs caused a retreat because it was mismanaged, and we're living with the ramifications of it. And again, declaring war on something like this, like poverty or anything like that, if you'll notice, whenever we declare war on something that's a social issue, it creates more of it. I had a joke when I was 18 years old where I was like, the war on poverty and the war on drugs is done so well. I wish we declare a war on tits because they'd be everywhere. And you see why. All right.
The border problem, the border crisis under Biden's.
Oh, and what I was going to say was the reason they care about fentanyl is it kills white people. Just saying, like that's the big concern. Fentanyl deaths are, you know, I mean, they're ubiquitous across a lot of places, absolutely, and they're taking a lot of it, but proportionally, one of the places that it scares the shit out of the Don Juniors of the world that they're going to get a dose of something that isn't what they bought, or, you know, people using heroin or using it. That's why he cares. That's why Trump is so, like, this is such a big deal, because people in Indiana and fucking Oklahoma are keeling over in rural communities, and that noise is making its way up the chain to those guys. Otherwise, they wouldn't kind of give a crap at all. Think of, like, I don't know, oxy and opium related deaths in laced weed and in other, you know, injectables. Like, they don't really care, not really. The oxy push actually largely happened because of, like, the vast number of, like, rural whites that it was killing.
Administration was a national crisis, but it acutely affected the communities right here. And I've already heard heartbreaking stories of people who are still picking up the pieces, local mayors who are still dealing with the budgetary consequences of what the Joe Biden administration allowed to happen at the American southern border. And that, too, is something that President Trump
is going to continue to blame Biden for now that he's even in office and what have you. And those numbers went up under Trump as well. Fentanyl came on the scene in the last 8 years. It has risen, it will spike, and then it will fade because it kills off its main customer base. Think of it as like Elon Musk and Tesla and the customer base there. Like, Elon Musk made friends with people who like electric cars. It reached a zenith where he lost his fucking mind and sketched a car, you know, using a straight ruler and went, how about that? I'm a genius. And then told everybody who might want to buy an electric car to go fuck themselves. And then it falls off precipitously because he destroyed his own customer base. Fentanyl has that kind of economic trend built in.
Going to help address, help fix, and help solve. Now, I wanted to bring Secretary Hegseth and Director Gabbard at DNI down here because, one,
because neither of them know what they're doing, and the further we keep them away from the office, the safer America is.
To enjoy their company, and it's good to have them down here with me looking around today. But unfortunately, we know that because of what's happened, the border crisis has become a matter of national intelligence, and it's also become something that requires the Department of Defense to engage with. I was talking with Paul Perez earlier. They're
going to shuffle funds away towards this. They're using this as an excuse, like why we can't support our European partners and NATO, and why we can't support Ukraine, and all. It won't stop us from sending stuff to Israel. Believe me, we're not going to cut their intel off, never. But we've got to save as much as we can because we need it at the border because terrorists are coming in through the border instead of through fucking LaGuardia.
The drone technology that the cartels are using requires, unfortunately, a military response and military support. So it was important for Secretary Hegseth to see.
Why is he going to is there a drone viewing party while he's down there in broad daylight for 3 hours, and then he goes inside and meets everybody, and then goes and has a fucking steak dinner in Texas during that period of time? He's going to, oh, shit. Yeah, it sounds like a drone. How far away is that? I don't know. We have guys with telescopes and sights and stuff. They can shoot it out of the air, but we got to, if it's over our land or within a certain distance, we're allowed to shoot it out of the sky. But we got to, maintain clearance and talk to Mexico so we don't, shoot down something that they're trying to help us, which is really what this is about. Mexico uses drones just like we do for border security and in an alignment with us. And they're worried about, like, what the fuck happens if we shoot down one of the ones that President Scheinbaum has shared, their technology with us, and our dipshit guys, or locals, not even people working with Customs and Border Patrol, open fire on the fucking thing.
What's going on, because we know that the millions and millions of people who were let in over the last 4 years, many of them are connected to foreign terrorists. It's important for our leader of national.
How many? How many? And by the way, connected to foreign terrorists? You mean like a Coptic Christian that escaped Syria because there's ISIS in Syria, even though they're a Christian that ISIS would kill, they flee, end up here, and they count, let me be abundantly clear, they count, according to this asshole, as being connected to terror. Now, their connection is they would be killed by it if they didn't escape. But that's a conversation for another time.
Intelligence to get a sense of what's here on the ground. So before we take questions from the press, and all of us are willing to take questions, I want to give Secretary Hegseth and then Director Gabbard an opportunity to say a few words themselves. Mr. Secretary.
Well, Mr. Vice President, thank you very much for inviting us. It's great to be here with you, with the director, with our fellow friends in civilian clothes and in other shades of green. This is a demonstration of a true partnership on the southern border, as President Trump has made clear on the campaign trail and from day one.
Also, I don't know if he's talking about the press or that they're soldiers in Customs and Border Patrol, or it's just his reference to they have their own security with them because it's the vice president. Nobody knows what you're talking about, dude.
And last night, border security is national security. And from the Defense Department, we've watched for a couple of decades other people's borders being secure.
Why did you disappear, you weird thing? Hold on 1 second. Doink. There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. Is it this? Yes. Okay. Project preview. There we go. I move this over here so I can see what the heck's going on in a relatively normal way. There we go. Okay, sorry, you were saying?
While ours was open for an invasion of drugs and of violence and of chaos for American communities. That stops under President Trump. And the Defense Department has assets that...
Yes, all of our chaos will be homegrown from the Jan 6ers that were released, many of whom believe they are sovereign citizens and don't have to listen to the federal government because they have an antenna in their brain that gets special messages directly from Trump, who is the Godhead.
We can bring to bear not just troops, not just surveillance, not just equipment, but actual planning and capabilities.
I'm sorry, planning and capabilities don't go part and parcel to technology and troops, personnel. So what you're saying is it looks like Trump just sent a bunch of people down there to stand there with guns because his wall sucks, and you're trying to tell us, no, there's a method to the madness.
Enhance what Border Patrol is already doing, which is why it's been incredible to hear from our partners about what we've been able to allow them to do, facilitate them, and we've seen it in the numbers. 98% drop in crossings on the southern border. We're not yet at 100% operational control, but we are on our way because that is the mandate that the president has given us. So more resources are coming to this.
It also helps that Russia is no longer funding caravans to the southern border, so the numbers drop down to a trickle anyways. And Mexico, because of USMCA and because of, and believe me, the tariffs will fuck this up. A lot of people are better off getting jobs there in Mexico. That's why the vast majority of people crossing the southern border aren't Mexican, because as their country stabilizes and their economy grows, they don't have to come here to work. If we're outsourcing, say, some of our farming to Mexico and the goods come across in a truck, they don't have to come over here to pick fruit and do stuff, the jobs that Americans don't want to do. They don't have to do that here. They can do it there and stay home with their families and make a decent living.
We are dedicated to securing it. That's the reason for our trip and our partnership. And I want to thank all the men and women who've been doing it recently in uniform, who have been doing it a long time right here, have dedicated their lives to securing the American people. And at the Defense Department, we are committed to continuing to being a big part of it. So, Mr. Vice President, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate
Thank you. Great. Now, Director.
Smack it. Just smack him. Give him a big old smack on the tuchus as he's leaving. It's like Trump slapping the hand of Kavanaugh. It's like he gave him that like Catholic teacher with a ruler, the nun in Blues Brothers.
National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't mind my butch voice. I put it on whenever I wear a hat, and I'm around the dudes.
And bringing the country's attention to what has been happening here at the border and the significant change that has already occurred under the short time that President Trump has been in office.
And all we've got to do is spend a couple of $100 billion a year, because remember, this is for the current budget, $200 billion for all these personnel headed down to the border. And we've just got to move them there. We just got to take, because the wall sucks and doesn't work and never was going to work, and the wind blows it over in places. And of course, it ends at private or Indian land. So all we got to do is, as you know, Americans, is fund to the tune of about $250 billion every year, human guards on our southern border for ever. I think that seems to be, because does anybody expect this to stop? Does anybody think that's what's going to happen? Does anybody think at one point he's like, okay, we've done it. Border secure. Everybody can go back. You guys can move back to Mississippi or go back to Oklahoma. All you troops can, we'll you know, yeah, we got enough razor wire. Head on back, guys. And then as soon as that happens, I'm sure everybody's going to just stay on either side. And it's not going to cost us $250 billion a year added to our budget to have a border that protects us from fruit pickers and roofers.
Really what you're seeing here today and what you'll continue to see is a unified effort across President Trump's national security team, the Department.
Real quick, DNI person, former Democrat and current cult member. Real quick, did the 9/11 hijackers come across the southern border? Did they drive across the Canadian border at between ports of entry? How about Timothy McVeigh and the Unabomber? How did they get into the country? Shit, what about a good portion of the Jan Sixers? Did they take a submarine?
Of Homeland Security towards our mission, which is to ensure a safe, free, and prosperous society for Americans. As Director of National Intelligence, there are a number of areas where we are
for Mother Russia
focused. The president talked about in his speech, over 21 million people have come across our borders illegally under Joe Biden's administration.
Yes, and to that point, what do you think they did when they got into the country? If you're, let's just operate on the premise that you're saying this, that you really think this is true. And 21,000 terrorists, not people from countries on the terrorist watch list who very well themselves might be escaping the terrorists you're talking about. But let's just assume they're all terrorists. And they all came across the southern border right there in El Paso, where you are today. What the fuck do you think they did once they got in? Stuck around? Mademoiselle Gabbard, do you think any of those motherfuckers are in El Paso? Or do you think maybe you should be doing this, if the fear is real, in one of the hubs of industry in our country, the big cities, or perhaps around our nuclear plants, or our electrical grid junction sites, or the center of our cloud computing areas, or anything that might actually be a fucking terrorist target? Maybe if you had any national intelligence at all, you might know where they headed once they were in. If they're not coming in anymore, what the fuck do we need you at the border for? And plus, aren't there a bunch of people stopping them from coming in? And it ain't you. It's not like you're going to be there and go, what about that guy? Like, why aren't you in Arizona at the chip fabs that are being built? Going, hey, we can't let the any of the 21,000 terrorists move into the neighborhood, we got to go door to door, making sure these people don't live here. What about Los Angeles or San Francisco or the other cities you don't give a shit about? Or Seattle, where, boy, there's a lot of technology. Or Chicago, where there's the Mercantile Exchange and there's, the second biggest stock market in the United States for trade. Or New York itself, a fun old, an old favorite target for terrorism. Maybe there. Maybe you go there. Maybe you do a little... We're meeting with Mayor Adams or Mayor Johnston or whatever city you're in, Mayor Bass, and we're going to coordinate with them to make sure that any of these fuckers that got across the border aren't going to show up in areas where there's lots of people and do harm to them, because nobody'd really notice if these motherfuckers open fire in the middle of the woods. Or could it possibly be that you have intelligence on all this kind of stuff? You actually have read the briefings. You've been provided with up-to-date information on all of this. And you know full fucking well that Donald Trump is lying his ass off about the number of terrorists that allegedly got into the fucking country. Maybe that. Could it possibly be that the reason you're dicking around down at the border in front of some fucking, camo forestry, play-acting background bullshit, maybe the reason you can hang out down there, you can go down for this puff piece bullshit, I'm here at the border to make sure that you guys are doing your job right. Maybe we should take this as a good sign. You know what? I'm going to take this as a good sign. If there are so few terrorists in this country that you can go dick around at the site where they allegedly got in instead of going after them where they currently are, then maybe we don't have anything to worry about. And don't worry, if something shitty happens, God forbid, and we have another bite at the 9/11 apple, if I survive it, I certainly won't draw attention to the fact that you should have been out looking for them instead of dicking around in front of props at the southern border, telling us how it's not a problem anymore. And that the problem that does exist is the cartels trying to sneak drugs into the country, because not terror, and not solved the same way you would solve it with terror, funding or what have you.
There are many of them that we don't know who they are. They have not been vetted. We don't know where they are. I'll give you.
Well, I tell you what, they aren't there. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. The worse they are, the faster they're out of it. Carlin used to have a bit, genius that it was, and in many ways permanently is in the lexicon of comedy and intellect in the American, in the history of American art. Had a bit about how, people don't want to live near a prison because there are, criminals, and they're afraid that people might break out of the, of the prison and attack them or whatever. He goes, what do you think the point of breaking out of prison is? To get as far away as you fucking can as quickly as possible. What do you think people want to do when they break out of prison? Hang around, check real estate trends? Bullshit. They're gone. Same thing with these fucking guys. Anybody who's hanging around El Paso is there trying to get a local job in Texas doing construction. They're not planning a giant terror act. As a matter of fact, they're going to go as far away from there as possible. And if you're just going down there to tell us that there's no problem anymore, God forbid something happens, it's your fucking fault.
One quick example of one of the problems that we are getting after. From Central Asia, there were over 4,000 people who came across our borders using an ISIS-affiliated network. Our National Counterterrorism Center.
An ISIS-affiliated network. Well, consider you guys think that's the UN. Pardon me if I don't freak out.
Went through and identified those individuals. There were hundreds of them who were either known terrorists or associated with known terrorists. That information was provided.
How are they associated? Because they had Muhammad in their name? Is that what it is? Or bin something?
To the Biden administration. You may remember in some of the news, a little over 100 of those people were arrested in 2024. Of those who were arrested, only 8 were either deported or remained in custody. Only 8.
That's because the rest of them were children or whole families, or they were people who we'd left in Afghanistan who snuck in the country. I mean, anybody from Afghanistan is Al-Qaeda and ISIS affiliated. They live in the neighborhood. That's good enough, right? Even if they're trying to escape those people and live freely and safely. I got news for you. The dude that everybody likes, the former Mossad, or sorry, the former, his name's Mossab, former Hamas guy, the Hamas leader's son, the guy who turned on him, he would definitely be terrorist affiliated or associated. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree that the guy who used to be in Hamas and used to plot to kill Jews would arguably be affiliated with Al-Qaeda or ISIS or Hamas or terrorist organizations, right? So I'm sure you're against him being on Joe Rogan's show or on Piers Morgan's show. Because, I mean, that's the standard.
Most of them were released back into our country. Where are they? What are they doing? What?
Gee, I'll tell you what, asshole. I'll tell you exactly what. I'll tell you where they aren't. They're not in El Paso, fuckwad. Don't go down to El Paso where this is where they snuck in. Where are they now? We have no idea. Do you think they're anywhere in the vicinity? Do you think are you coordinating something to find them? Is there a trail that starts right there? Did they leave fucking breadcrumbs? Did they leave bits of pita? Uh-oh, I smell hummus. They must have gone this way. No. You are as far from these assholes as you possibly could be right now. Wherever they are, they ain't there.
May they be plotting? This is just the beginning. There are many, many areas that we need to stay very focused on, working with Department of...
Yeah, and it's not El Paso. It's not the middle of Death Valley either. If you just want to go stand in front of some fucking dirt.
Homeland Security, working with the FBI to ensure that we're keeping the American people safe. Our Counterterrorism Center is working on making sure that we have that.
Can I, just to make a parallel, she might as well be standing there talking about yellow cake. We found slices of yellow cake with yellow frosting, which is quite frankly disgusting, and a yellow candle on it that was never lit, so obviously it was all a farce. We found yellow cake at the border. Proof positive that they were here doing what they were doing. That's the equivalent of what you're saying right here.
Single source for vetting so that we can figure out who is actually in our country and identify those who pose a threat and get them removed.
Again, what the fuck are you doing in El Paso then, asshole? Why aren't you back in D.C. at the center of the hub in the DNI office, talking to all the intel groups and the FBI and everybody and coordinating or going to, I guess, target areas? Who the fuck wants to blow up El Paso? No offense to El Paso. I've been there. It's, reasonable. It's sort of the Toledo of Mexicali.
The president's designation of the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations falls directly into this, especially as we're seeing some of the tactics that these...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The cartels want to sell drugs and, I suppose, people to the American citizens. So it's kind of anti-business to blow up a whole fucking building. The terrorism that most cartels are involved in is relatively low rung. It's to terrorize local officials so that they don't stop them from selling their shit. But they're not on the same scale as ISIS. Nobody in a fucking cartel, even if they have a giant Mary tattoo on their goddamn back, thinks that they're going to get virgins after they're blown away. Nobody wears suicide vests to sell fentanyl. Dummy. This is so aggravating. But, hey, look, I like a puppet show as much as the next person.
Cartels are using reflect some of the tactics that we've seen used by Islamist terrorists in countries that many of us have served in overseas.
Do you? Cartels are using Islamist tactics? Sorry, are they trying to forcibly convert people to drug? We are of the drug cult. We will make everyone use them. We will not, you don't sell them. We force it down your throat. We're not selling drugs anymore. We're converting you to an addict in the name of our God, Methaphanatnil.
Our mission is very clear. Our objective is to keep the American people safe. I'm grateful to be a part of this team that President Trump has assembled to accomplish that mission. Thank you.
Great. So before I take questions, let me just say two final things. First of all, the reason why we've seen, as Pete said, a 98% reduction of border crossings, the reason
is because you have manned the entire border, which you are eventually going to have to fund, which is exactly what Biden said.
Why this particular site has gone from over 1,500 crossings per day to 30 crossings per day is because President Trump has empowered and, in fact, demanded that his whole government take the task of border control seriously. And that's exactly.
No, he just realized the wall doesn't work, and he backfilled it with human bodies, which you will need funding from Congress to do.
What we're doing. And of course, and this leads me to my final point before we take questions.
Thank God.
It is impossible to do without the men and women on the ground who are actually doing the hard work. They just want to be empowered to do their jobs. President Trump has made that possible. So from the bottom of my heart and for a grateful nation, to every person I've met here.
All right, yeah. To El Paso crowds are the greatest crowds in the history of El Paso. Yeah, we get it. Suck up to the people who actually endanger their lives every day. They do a great job, and you don't get to steal their valor standing there because you flew down in your dress shirt to glad hand with the fucking local polls and guarantee that you can use every victim of crime as a fucking wall against you and your shit economic policies.
Hey, thank you for working hard on the American people's business. It's been an honor to be.
Yummy. Thank you for working hard on the American people's business. Somebody came up to me and said that to me once, and I know exactly what they meant.
With you. It's been an honor to see what you do, and we're going to keep on supporting you over the next 4 years. Congressman Gonzalez, thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership. And now we'll take some questions from reporters. Sir.
So, as you guys have been exemplifying for today that border crossings are down.
You have been exemplifying for today? Let me guess, this guy's on the team.
A lot of attention has been turned to the interior since obviously there's been a lot of illegal immigrants. What is, in your opinion, the biggest obstacle to actually carrying out President Trump's mass deportations?
I could say big agribusiness and corporate interests who pay a lot of these people under the table and require about 5 to 7 million low-wage workers that they effectively trap in dead-end jobs. But I can't say that. So I'm just going to go trans ideology. Just go with that. Yep, it's the transes.
Yes, like apprehensions and arrests and deportations.
Oh, and he'll honestly, I think we're going to go with, what do you think, sanctuary cities?
Have gone up in his first month, but a lot of people are expecting a bigger capacity for deportation.
Right, because he was telling you millions and bigger than Operation Wetback and all that kind of shit, and it's just kind of.
So what's the biggest
so let me say,
what's a
few things about that. So first of all, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we have seen pretty significant increases.
Yeah, but I would like to remind you that Caesar never said, we will build Rome in a day. It's going to be so easy. You're going to have your head spin like no one's ever seen before. You're going to see a Rome like's never existed. We're going to go from tents to big, beautiful buildings on day one. I'm going to make one phone call. We'd have it already if it wasn't for these stupid fucking people, right? You're not building an infrastructure. You're kicking people out. He's asking you why you're not rounding up more people. Just tell him. Because Trump's corporate handlers and big agribusiness will freak out, and also the prices of everyday goods will go through the fucking roof, and Americans will go, hey, what the shit? And you don't mind them doing that later when it's too late. But right now, you got to get he's got to get his tax cut done. And if they're mad at him because prices have continued to just go up, and they go up an extra exponentially, they 5x their way up, then they're going to be too mad at him to let him get away with his stupid tax cut.
In deportations and apprehensions and arrests. But we have to remember that President Biden gutted the entire immigration enforcement regime of this country.
No, he didn't. Funding went up every year, including last year.
We are trying to rebuild so that we actually empower people to enforce the immigration laws.
No, you're not. Hold on, real quick, if I may. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. They were using C-13s. Let's see. Jumps using C-130s for migrant flights. Yeah, there you go. Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me go back to this. I'm going to try to find the... Signing the thing to do. Sign in. Dibbity-doo. Yeah, here you go. There you go. U.S. suspends costly deportation flights using military aircraft. Trump administration used C-17s to fly migrants abroad and to Guantanamo Bay, also C-130s. The Trump administration has stopped using military aircraft to fly migrants who entered the U.S. illegally to Guantanamo Bay or other countries, defense officials said. He's made a crackdown of illegal blah, blah, blah. He wants to do this. The last military deportation flight was March 1st. The Pentagon said Tuesday that no such flights were scheduled for the next 48 hours. A flight scheduled for Thursday was canceled, a defense official said. The pause on such flights could be extended or made permanent, official said. Soon after Trump took office, he sent out these people, the message is clear, if you break the law, they're kicking you out. But the military flights have taken longer routes and transported fewer migrants at a higher cost to taxpayers than the government's typical deportation flights on civilian aircraft, the Journal found. Three deportation flights to India cost $3 million each. Some flights carried a dozen people to Guantanamo at a cost of at least $20,000 per migrant. Standard U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement flight costs $8,500 per flight hour for the whole fucking plane. For the whole fucking plane. Not 20 grand per migrant. $8,500 an hour. According to government webpage, former ICE officials told the Journal the figure is closer to $17,000 per flight hour for international trips, because if they have to stop and if they got to go through security and all this other stuff, it costs $28,500 per flight hour to fly a C-17, which is designed to carry heavy cargo and troops, according to U.S. Transportation Command, which provided the aircraft. Adding to the costs, the C-17s haven't been using Mexico's airspace because these fucking countries don't want us flying military planes over their airspace without permission. It sets a bad precedent, allowing other countries to fly their fucking military planes over your country. Nobody likes it. We don't like it. Nobody else does either. That's why we use civilian planes. And it's cheaper. Where's the DOGE guys? Hey, DOGE, why'd you fucking guys fire the asshole who came up with this? Oh, wait, he's your boss. Well, he's your boss's vice president because obviously your boss is Trump's boss. So, Colombian President Gustavo Petro in January denied entry to 2 C-17 flights, prompting Trump to threaten tariffs. Hours later, the White House said Colombia had agreed to unrestricted acceptance of illegal aliens, including U.S. military aircraft. But that's a lie. No C-17s have landed in the country. Instead, Colombia sent its own aircraft to transport deported Colombians. What did I tell you? Republican motto: government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it.
The American people. It is common sense. It's what the American people want us to do. There are a couple of other things that we're working on. And I don't want to get ahead of any public announcements, but
yeah, just tell us what you're working on so that we can forget about them.
One of the ways that we wanted to make sure that we're enforcing our border is that we...
Yes, you got to enforce your border. Look, people forget that. It's one of the key things. Enforce it. If you're going to second it, maybe and third it, but you got to enforce your border. You guys know this, and I don't have to tell you this, chat room. I always enforce my border. And I use a special salve that I've got off a site on the internet. None of your business. But look, as far as some doctors think that's a bad way to go, but I did my own research. Hashtag enforce your border.
But, you know, one of the ways that we wanted to make sure that we're enforcing our border is we make it easier for people who are here illegally to go back home of their own accord.
I'm sorry, were we stopping them ever?
Want to have to go around and arrest every person, but we will enforce the American...
Oh, motherfucker. So this is like, we're just making it easier for people to leave. So like half of them already left. You know that magical 25 million number that doesn't fucking exist? 15 million of those. We only have about 10 million left in the country because 15 million of them bugged out on their own. We just stopped stopping them, which never happened, ever. That's what he's saying. The reason you're not seeing us having to round people up is that they are self-rounding themselves. We call it the Romney plan. They're self-deporting.
People's immigration laws. If you're here illegally, the message from our administration is you should go back home, and if you want to come to the United States, apply through the proper channels. That's an important thing that we're doing. And the final thing is this.
Hey, asshole, you're not doing that. That's an important thing you're not doing. In theory, something was being done that was slowing down people leaving, and now that thing isn't being done anymore. You're not doing this. You can't say that's an important thing you're doing when it requires you to stop doing something that you weren't doing in the first place. All right.
Costs money. One of the most important parts of the president's reconciliation priorities is, of course, tax reform on the one hand, and on the other hand, making sure that we get proper resources so that we can pay for the flights. And we can...
What? Sorry. Proper resources so you can pay for the flights? So, okay. So the idea is, you just haven't rounded everybody up, millions of fucking people, because you don't have the plane fare. That's the story now. That's what they sent you down to fucking El Paso to stand in front of this fucking tarp and blather at people. Okay, first of all, you guys aren't even seeing the deportations that people are doing to themselves. Some of them load themselves up in catapults and chuck themselves back over the border. Hopefully, maybe I will land all the way in Guatemala, right? That's it. And then the other is, we'd love to round all these fuckers up, millions of them, and make it happen quickly, but we don't have bus fare. We don't have access to the kind of cash we'll need to fly them out. So we can't round them up till we get those flights together. And, I don't know. Does anybody have a corporate credit card on them or something like that? I don't know. Maybe we could do a GoFundMe or something like that. Maybe do a Kickstarter to kick people out of the country.
Pay for the detention centers, and we can pay for all the components necessary.
Oh, you mean the bill that Biden was saying you have to pass so that you can actually have the infrastructure to actually do this? You're saying you need what Biden was asking for. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what you're saying. Asshole.
To ensure that we're re-migrating illegal immigrants back to their country of origin.
Oh, my God. All right. You guys know how much I hate 1984 references, but re-migrating? Re-migrating. What's that? Where you take, I'm sorry, is that where you're going to go DACA people actually live here? So technically, many of them don't even speak Spanish. We're just going to dump them fucking Brazil. They don't speak Portuguese or whatever. We're going to dump them in South of America, and they're going to be migrants there, even though they technically come from there, but they've been living in the United States since they were babies. And so they're not really citizens of those places anymore. We're just going to dump them, and we'll re-migrate them back from when they were kids. Jesus Christ. Re-migrate? Re-migrate.
I guarantee it is a part of the president's priorities. We'll keep on working on it. We've made a lot of progress, but we're going to keep on working on it over the remaining.
I don't think you have. I think the wall sucks. You sent a bunch of people down, scared people off. You shut down asylum, so nobody's going to even try. They're going to try other alternative things, which is going to cost human lives, and it's going to separate families and all that kind of stuff. But you don't give a fuck, and you're up to here with the migrants, so that's where you've decided to go. But you're also facing the fact that there aren't nearly as many of them in the country as you said there were, and so rounding them up is going to be really difficult because the ones that are here that you've been talking about have lived here for a long time and are integral to the economy.
For the president's term. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I want to ask you about border wall and tariffs. But first on the border wall, how do you and the president...
Could you say your outlet, by the way, when you guys ask questions?
Yeah, Reagan Reese.
So why? So you can decide whether or not to give them a real answer, you lazy fuck?
Daily Caller.
Thank you.
How do you and...
The Daily Caller. Oh, you're a friendly. Okay, so I know how to answer in a way that I can speak maggot instead of just shitting on you. Because I might take your question that might be a legitimate one, and if I think it's from the Washington Post or something, I might treat you like garbage. But since it's from the Daily Caller, I'll tiptoe around and bullshit you properly.
President define success this term with the border wall, and how much of the southern border wall needs to be walled off before Trump leaves office?
Well, look,
you have to, all of it. Yeah, you're going to have to wall off the whole wall because the wall doesn't work. Yeah, you're going to need a double wall. Just like a prison. You know, if you notice, prisons don't just have one wall. They used to. Too easy to get out of. Now there's a wall, and then there's an interior wall. There's like a area between. Or if you have a turreted wall, you know, which is the old-fashioned way of doing two walls, you do a big one wide enough where, you know, there's somebody walking up there, state official, hat, nightstick, gun, that kind of thing. That's basically two walls with a stand between them. And then at prisons, they'll often have like a chain link fence or something like that on the interior because you're trying to get people out. So you'd put that on the outside, and then you would put the big wall up here. But this wall falls over in the wind. So most of our prisons in America, thank God, don't fall over when it gets windy. So
the president's hope is that by the end of the term, we
sorry, I gestured.
Build the entire border wall. And of course, that's the physical structure of the border wall itself. But we even heard today, there are so many good technological tools.
Oh, fuck you. No, you guys mocked Democrats for this very thing. Night vision goggles, where we're going to send drones down there. What do you want to pay for a bunch of ATVs? Yes, exactly. And you can't build wall on private land or Indian land, fuckwad. You're going to need all that extra shit. And you don't get to make fun of it last year and then go, you know, I don't know if you've heard about this stuff, but I was talking to somebody, I forget who it was, the Democrats, about all this technological stuff you can use. Jesus Christ.
So many great artificial intelligence enabled technologies that allow us.
You mean like Tulsi?
For example, you know, a camera, not a person, but a camera picks up somebody 2 miles away.
Oh, fuck you, dude. A camera. Listen to this asshole. Maggots. Come, all right. Hi, chat room. Maggots, come on. Cameras? Cameras. Because I got to tell you, Democrats were saying the very same fucking thing. And Republicans, including J.D. Vance when he was in the Senate, mocked the idea as capitulating to terrorists and murderers. There are cameras that can see way farther than the human eye. Maybe there's an upside to this. Maybe there's a good side. Maybe what we can actually, if you pay attention, maybe what we're actually seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is give Republicans enough responsibility and a serious ramification if they don't live up to that responsibility, and they start sounding like Democrats. Did you notice that? Did you notice how they all start, fuck, well, we got to fix that. We can, emergency aid, well, obviously FEMA could do a great thing, but we're going to have to leave that up to the states. But the money will have to be there, and of course, coordination will have to occur or whatever. Well, what the fuck do you think FEMA is? Oh, it's a coordination between other states that aren't affected and the states that are affected, and federal funds that go to support places that have been hit because they're all part of the United States. Give them long enough. They'll all start talking, well, we can't just let our seniors eat cat food. I don't trust that that's true. There, a big portion of these folks, especially people like this dickhead who's basically owned by Peter Thiel, are all about culling the herd and think we've been keeping the poor and the ignorant and the sickly alive for far too long, and it's time to let them die of natural causes.
Who's about to come across the southern border? Maybe it's
because I think it'd be abundantly clear. Trump is a Darwinist. He's not a Christian. So is J.D. Vance. He's a Darwinist, not a Christian. And people like, and I don't mean just an atheist. I mean a person who believes in the concept of survival of the fittest based on material strength or acquired goals or acquired resources, which is what monarchies are based on, if you really think about it. Like, God wants us to be in charge. It's in my genes.
Stock, right? Maybe it's a critter in the desert. Maybe it's a human being with a weapon on their back. We're using artificial intelligence to make us better at the job.
Yes, we need artificial intelligence to tell us the difference between a human being with a weapon and a critter. All right, fucko. Did somebody say critter? Huh? Listen here, buddy. I got your number. You got more to fear. Like, you got Secret Service around you. So some human with a weapon's not going to get anywhere near you. But I bite you in the ass. You're going to have lockjaw, buddy. It'll be the best thing that happened to your family ever. Critter. Fuck you. As a critter American, I take offense. You prick. That's all I got to say. God bless our critters overseas. Okay. And scene. That's single greatest puppet I have ever found for sale. That thing. We've yet to find a full space for him, but yeah, that's Matt the Rat and Alf Jr. Yeah, but he's our official critter spokesperson for House Sparks Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, or he'll come back, or won't, depending on if you like him or don't. Wait, that was a puppet? No, it was it's actually what my right arm looks like. All right, back to this dipshit. I want to see somebody ask Tulsi a fucking question.
of border enforcement, but we've got to make sure that technology is deployed across the entire American southern border. We're going to do it as much as we can, as broadly as we can, because that's...
Hey, that's been my motto for a long time. I do it as much as I can, as broadly as I can.
It's good to be the king.
All right.
We're going to protect the American people's security. Yeah, go ahead.
Last time they were paused because they deployed 10,000 troops to the border. What can they do this time to make the tariffs go away?
Well, what the president has said is we need a sustained commitment from the government of Mexico to take the job of border security seriously.
Yeah, but then what are you going to do? Just like threaten the tariffs every month and then not institute them if you like it? Why not just go, if it gets above this number, then we're going to institute tariffs? How about that? Like, what if that's really what he means? Go, if Mexican border crossings get up over, whatever, 8,000, in a week, we're going to fucking, we're going to institute these tariffs. If they are 3,000, if they get up to 5,000, it'll be this. If they get up to 8,000, it's like that. And we're going to tariff Mexico accordingly, as opposed to just like, well, if I don't know, I don't think they're doing enough. I think inside, I feel whimsically today, I feel Mexico isn't doing enough in my way of thinking. Wash this.
Fentanyl is the single largest cause of death among young Americans, and we know that a substantial portion of it is, the precursors are made in China.
They're also made in Arizona.
Come to Mexico, they're manufactured in Mexico and brought across the border by the Mexican drug cartels. We want to see fewer Americans dying of these terrible fentanyl overdoses when we're going to apply as much leverage as possible to the Mexican government as possible. In some ways, look, the president...
Also, you're not going to do anything about demand? I don't know, maybe work on lowering demand for narcotics in the country. But that takes work. Yeah.
Obviously cares deeply about the American people. He serves
obviously
the American people first. I actually think he's doing a huge favor to the people of Mexico, because if they don't get control of these cartels, the people of Mexico are going to wake up in a narco state where the cartels have more power than their own government.
Hey, asshole. That's what happens in Mexico on a regular basis. That's already how things are. Just depends on where you are. That's the case. These assholes, like Trump's going to use the idea that Eastern Mexico is effectively owned by the cartels, and they're going to bomb it and take it possibly. You want to hear his bullshit about Greenland? Just wait till you hear what he says about like Eastern Mexico and Central America really being America because it's in the name, and Gulf of America because we're going to take the territory. Okay, fuck me. So I'm not kidding, kids. Let's go. Map. See if this. Yeah, here we go. Open this guy up. There you go. Control plus. Whoops. Command plus. There we go. Scroll this up. Then I want to show you. Yeah. His Gulf of America map. There we go. So there's good old Google. Look at that. It's so small, but you'll see it. Okay. No, thank you. Let me show you this real quick, kids. So, see this whole Gulf of America stuff that Trump's been talking about? Okay, see this? See this business? Okay. Now, do you think this just has to do with the, get out the fuck out of here. You think this just has to do with the body of water? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, Trump is not just talking about all the way down here to the edge of Texas, but all of this part as well? all the way down to Guatemala and Belize and that kind of stuff, and use it as a filter, but effectively the eastern part of Mexico, probably from the center over. Okay? Why would you think that, Hal? Because of this map? The Technate of America? The map that Elon Musk's grandfather believed in? That they would incorporate and take over, either partner with, in the case of Canada, or control, in the case of Mexico and Guatemala and some of the other Central American countries, and Panama, and Cuba, ultimately, and the and the Caribbean. The U.S. would control all of that. That's the Technate of America. That would be the techno state of America, run by engineers, not politicians, based on resources and the reallocation of resources and all that kind of shit. Okay. You don't have a Gulf of America is a step in this direction. Okay. Just in case anybody thinks that, hold on, let's see where we are. Back to this nonsense. Yeah. Just in case anybody thinks this is all like kind of slapdash. It is in terms of Trump's thinking, but the people around him are looking at it as, finally, we're going to implement the strategy. Look at the PNAC document, Project for a New American Century, and what they wanted to do in the Middle East. It failed, but that was their goal. And you could argue that they've been working on it ever since, and they know it's going to be a 50 to 100-year policy, but that's the idea. They'll stay at it as long as it takes. The same thing is true of the Technate crowd. And Trump's coming in and saying exactly what they were saying in 1935.
President Trump is trying to help. The Mexican government needs to take this
That's what he's doing. He's really trying to help Mexico.
issue of immigration enforcement seriously. In the back, yeah.
Mr. Vice President, Ali Bradley, News Nation. So since the designation...
Not a single normal news group there at all. No legacy media. It's all just Daily Wire and News Nation and fucking Newsmax. And where's Brian Glenn? He's in D.C. with Trump giving him a handy.
...of the cartels as terrorists, does that give the United States the green light to go into Mexico and to strike them there? I mean, right now...
Yes. Legally? Yeah. Why else do you think he's doing it? Just to be macho?
Obviously, they've struck in the Houthis in Yemen, so why not, when we've seen cross-border violence, go after them in Mexico? And then my second question is about a designation I'll follow up on, please.
Go ahead and ask the second question.
Why isn't the Juarez/La Línea cartel designated when it's in one of the most deadliest places on the planet? Juarez has been designated as one of the deadliest cities. It's right across from El Paso. We've talked to community leaders. They say, we know Juarez cartel's operating in the U.S., and so are their affiliates. We don't even want to talk about it out loud, though, because then we'll put a target on our back.
Well, so you're saying that's why he'll deflect on this, is because he's scared? Is that what you're saying?
Border Patrol even thought they were designated, but they're not. The State Department didn't tell me why.
So on that, we're looking at additional organizations. Obviously, this is the determination of whether to determine a particular organization, a terrorist organization, is something that we consult with our leaders of the Department of Defense. We also consult with our friends in other governments.
Really? So Trump didn't with these other groups, but this one, you need permission from somebody else. What do you think? Hegseth's going to push back?
We maintain the optionality to designate.
Optionality?
Further organizations, terrorist organizations, if we feel that we need to.
Yes, it's based on a feeling. It's what a feeling. We can have it all.
To protect the American people. And I think President Trump has made it very clear he's not going
to. Apparently he hasn't, because that's why this lady is confused.
Be shy about designating some of these cartel organizations as terrorists if he
Yeah, but you just said you had to consult with the DOD and other countries.
He has to protect the American people. Your first.
Oh, so you're saying that he doesn't consider the deadliest gang and the deadliest area of Mexico to be a reason to designate them, just some other ones. So effectively, he's trying to help that gang beat the other gangs because he thinks he can make a deal with them for, if they end up controlling Mexico largely, he can cut a deal with, you just pick winners and losers. And, instead of solar companies like you said with Obama and Biden, you're just picking drug cartels. Cool. Okay.
Question was about
American forces to strike.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So look, I'm not going to make any announcements about any invasions of Mexico here today. The president.
Damn. Well, there's always tomorrow.
It has a mega.
Or in the middle of the night.
And of course, he'll speak to these issues as he feels necessary. But what designating cartel organizations allows us to do is deploy the full resources of the United States military to engage in serious border enforcement.
Yeah, we're not enforcing the borders with the Houthis. We're not enforcing the borders in Syria. We weren't enforcing borders in Iraq or in Afghanistan. That's not at all what was that. Like, again, you don't even need to designate any group a terrorist organization to defend your own borders, fuckwad.
Of course, the president is going to make the determination about how we deploy those forces. But our hope is that Mexico takes this job seriously. We don't want to have negative relationships with the Mexican government. We want the Mexican government to help itself, but also in the process to help the American people by.
Yes, it's clear. Mexico, try harder or you're going to make us bomb you. Wait, this is going to hurt us a lot more than it's going to hurt. Well, it's going to hurt you, actually.
Taking these organizations seriously. It's going to destabilize the entire country of Mexico, the entire government. If they don't take it more seriously, we're hopeful that they will. And if they don't, then, of course, we'll figure out what to do from there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. If they, what this amorphous goal that we've made up out of whole cloth, if they don't do that or we don't feel like they're doing that, we will feel like we have the right to do whatever the fuck we feel like doing. And I don't know what that feeling is. And it's up to the president what he feels like and how bad he needs a distraction from his shitty economic polling numbers.
So, you just mentioned something about invasion of Mexico. Is there any talk or any thoughts about actually U.S. military forces going into Mexico?
No. Next question.
On tariffs, are any other industries other than automotive reaching out to you guys to carve out special?
By the way, that is a direct question, but he clearly, I mean, there's no direct, he's not involved in it, is how he gets out of that question. He can go, no, there's no conversations about that because he's not privy to it, nor would he be. He's not a part of it. Ask Hegseth. Don't ask Vance, because Vance wouldn't be in the loop. Ask Tulsi Gabbard and ask Hegseth. They don't answer to him. They answer to the president. Right? Somebody go. Can I ask the Secretary of Defense a question? Is there any conversation? Because he would be forced to lie.
Deals. And did the automotive industry know this was coming before today?
Well, a number of
Trump didn't know it was coming before today. He forgot what day it was.
Industries have reached out to us to ask us for exceptions to the tariffs, but I think the president's been very clear here that he wants the tariffs to apply broadly. He doesn't want to have 500 different industries getting 500 different carve-outs, and the way to avoid application of the tariffs is to have your factory and have your facility in the United States of America.
Yeah, but we're not going to make every fucking thing. Nor would we want to, you weirdo. The consumer base we're not going to have a one-to-one consumer base with manufacturing and consumer in the United States. I'm sorry. I don't need Wisconsin fucking brie. Most of the car companies, the big ones, do have factories in the United States. It's just parts of the shit is made elsewhere. They're assembled here. They've already acquiesced to these things years ago. The difference is we didn't do the same thing. There aren't Ford plants in fucking Germany the way there are Mercedes plants in the United States. Maybe that might have something to do with the imbalance and why you don't see a lot of those cars in those countries versus here.
That is the way. Invest in America. That is how you will avoid being penalized by these tariffs.
Vice President, KSAT 12, John Paul Barajas. You've been talking about the improvements that your administration has done here with the crossings.
Well, no, apparently he's also said that people are leaving. So I guess maybe they're counting the crossings against the self-deportation numbers he made up. And maybe there are like 14,000 people coming this way, but they're counting they're assuming 13,497 are going that way. And so we'll meet you at around 500.
You talk about the decline prior to President Trump taking office under the Biden administration.
Well, I think like so many Americans, apparently members of the Mexican drug cartel figured out in November and December after the election that Joe Biden was asleep at the wheel and they had to be dealing with the then president-elect and now president. If you look at what drove the declines before the inauguration, people will tell you they knew that Donald Trump was coming back.
Winter. That's what drove the decline. Winter.
Office. They knew he was going to take border enforcement seriously, and so they were already getting ahead of actually cutting down those illegal crossing numbers.
Sorry, they were getting ahead. Why? Why would they get ahead of it? Wouldn't they try to get people in before he got in office? Wouldn't the numbers go up? Oh shit! You better get in there and find a place to hide before Trump stops the border. He's going to close the border. You won't have any chance of getting through. What are you going to I'm sorry. So they're self-deporting, but they're also self-border patrolling. The cartels are self-border patrolling now. That's what they're doing.
We saw that from the Mexican government, of course, because we were threatening some economic sanctions against them. But we also saw it from the cartels themselves. And even today, because, of course, it doesn't, it takes a little time to get from the deepest parts of Central America to the American southern border. What we often find is that there are massive numbers of illegal immigrants who have already started to make the trek and have decided, you know what, because Donald Trump's president, we're going to go back home. We heard today about a Honduran group of migrants who decided they're just going to go back home because.
Yeah, I love that. They wrote a whole musical about it. You can watch it online. It's fantastic. Like they just decided we were going to go, but we decided, no, it's not worth it. So we decided to just stay where we were, which is where we were going.
They recognize that under Donald Trump's leadership, we take border enforcement seriously.
Bye.
Thank you all. Take care.
Yikes. So that's what passes for actual policy positions and actual political stunting right now. Meanwhile, and by the way, speaking of cunning stunts, you guys might be familiar with this lady. I'm not. I'm loosely aware of the fact that she once owned a gym and cheated on her husband with a sex guru who was a trainer there and is now sleeping with a guy who got fired from RSBN for having bad taste. So I don't know much about her. I think there was something about her. She called the lady who groped the dude at Beetlejuice a little bitch on the House floor in Congress and was expelled from the Freedom Caucasians for being insufficiently freedomy or Caucasian. I think one or the other. But she had a closed door meeting with Elon Musk and about the DOGE, folks. Just in. I like to break news. Hit that like, subscribe, share the show, etc., etc. DOGE comedy hire. Major Taylor Green details closet door meeting with Leon Stunk. Okay.
Could you share what Elon Musk was talking to you about in the meeting, major takeaways, what was discussed in
The major takeaways is the American people's money has truly been stolen through an incredible amount of fraud.
That's it. Major news. Incredible amount of fraud. The American people's money has been stolen. Fraud. It was supposed to go here, and it went into somebody else's pocket or somewhere else, or didn't go anywhere at all, or just they set fire to it like the Joker. Fraud. But tell us about the fraud, lady. And there's so much of it, I'm sure she won't be able to get to all of it. But fraud. You were saying fraud.
And all types of improper payments.
All types of improper payments. Oh, well, we wouldn't want to be improper now, would we? Oh, so what are these payments that were improper? Yeah, yes, didn't have a bow tie. No, didn't lift their pinky when they signed the check. Improper. Oh, untoward, one might say. Yes.
It was actually the first hearing I held, which I think sounded super boring to a lot of people because it was. Yeah, because it's not reality television and you're in a government fucking job, lady. Medicare and improper payments. But
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said lady. I think I misgendered her.
the things that they've discovered is how Social Security numbers have been used. And these are for dead people.
Dead people have been misusing Social Security numbers and fraud. So we got to get rid of Social Security, people. It is just massive, massive fraud. And they discovered numbers that dead people were using.
That are over.
Like the sixth number, which has to do with sense. It's common sense. It's dollars and cents. 6 cents. Yeah, I see dead people's Social Security checks.
115 years old, and how basically criminals have been able to take these Social Security numbers, and we're able to get things like small business loans. We're able to get all types of money taken from federal government programs, and basically.
You mean like PPP loans? Like, because I think I saw something. That Congress members of I knew I had to list these. These would be PPP loans that were forgiven. Matt Gaetz, $476,000 PPP loan. Huh. Consider, that's a lot of PPs he likes to look at, so that makes sense. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, $180K. Just forgiven. You just got to keep that. And as you got elected, it was weird. The money that went straight into your campaign, that the person you're running against didn't have that $180K, I guess. Huh. My goodness. Look. Remember Mark Wayne Mullen? It's too bad, Mark Wayne Mullen. You share a list with. I know you don't like, allegedly, you don't like Matt Gaetz, but you got double his number. He got 476,000. You got 988,700. There you go. I think the most impressive one is Roger Williams in Texas. Trump just congratulated him. Remember, he brought up Roger Williams recently. 1.4 million. Brett Guthrie, Republican in Kentucky, $4.3 million for what? So I'm sure DOGE is clawing back that money right away. So did you write him a check or?
Stolen it all. So this is something we had a very detailed meeting with Elon and his team with the DOGE committee, and we look forward to holding some very impactful hearings going forward.
Yeah, so very impactful hearings. Hold on, I got to figure out who this fucking Brett Guthrie motherfucker is. Brett Guthrie, what? Okay. Guthrie votes for Paycheck Protection Program and how we created a PPP to help business keep funds working in Kentucky alone. Nearly 24,000 loans versus worth $4.1 billion. Guthrie statement on paycheck. Here. There you go. Bowling Green, hey, where Corvettes are made. Congressman Brett Guthrie today released the below statement on the Paycheck Protection Program. Small businesses are hurting right now. This is April 16, 2020. Especially his. I support the CARES Act to create PPP to help businesses continue to pay employees and certain business expenses. PPP is designed to keep businesses open, but sadly, businesses can no longer access the program until funds are replenished. I urge my colleagues to pass emergency additional funding for the PPP so more second district businesses can benefit from this critical program, including me, to the tune of $4.3 million, ladies and gentlemen. $1 million.
What do you make of the proposal to put all of this into rescissions packages and basically get it formalized by Congress?
Well, it's an extremely important part of this. Is any type of DOGE cuts, we've got to work into our legislation and work into our budgets and appropriation.
No, you don't. No, Trump can just erase it. You've given him line item veto power just through a back door, as it were, which seems to be, according to Brian Glenn, a thing with you.
And that's a large amount of planning that's happening. I think.
Ooh, a large amount of planning. Very efficient. Yeah, unlike normal government shit.
What's exciting for the American people is this is very bipartisan. And this might be one of the first things that the American people could see coming from Washington, D.C., where we're literally talking about money that is being used in fraudulent ways and being stolen by criminals. And I think it's something the American...
Really? First of all, no. Secondly, what took you so fucking long? You guys are the ones that want to gut the FBI. You don't think the FBI and the DOJ's arm goes after this shit?
People care about it. Certainly has been like a #1 issue.
And so, ma'am, what was his top line message on there tonight?
I don't know how to sum it up in a top line message, but primarily that basically the American people have been robbed blind, and it's happening through improper payments, fraud.
Improper, fraud. Improper, that's stuff you don't like. Fraud is stuff you can't prove.
And a lot.
And by the way, wouldn't fraud be easy? Especially in this case. Are you, sir, come down here. Here's your subpoena. Are you 135 years old? On advice of my counsel, I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. Because at 115, I would owe back taxes to the 1800s. And also, so if you're 115, did you also start your own bespoke truck nuts company, which seems like an untoward business for someone of your age and gentrification? Define truck nuts. Representative Green, can you push your hair back so they can see your earrings? Thank you.
Systems that are just so old and outdated, computer systems that can't even work together between departments.
Why would they have to? For real? Why? They aren't overlapping departments.
Some federal government agencies and departments are actually hiring third-party vendors to hold their data instead of having their own systems that can communicate within the federal government.
What? Wait, whoa, wait a second. Are you telling me that the federal government is using private industry to do stuff when they could do it cheaper and more efficiently? Yeah. For fuck's sake, people. I mean, you get the point. That's what she's arguing here. Why are we hiring private businesses to do stuff we could do cheaper in-house as the government? You're fucking kidding me, right? Again, that's what I said. Give Republicans enough responsibility and ramifications to failing that responsibility high enough, and suddenly they start sounding like fucking Democrats. Well, for real, what the fuck is that?
Any discussion in the room about, folks who are losing their jobs, federal workers who are out of work?
No, we're talking about fraud and money being stolen. And
Oh, so not your PPP loans.
listen, in the private industry, unfortunately, there's downsizing that happens and people lose their jobs. We're $36 trillion in debt. The American people can't afford it anymore. So no, that wasn't discussed.
Well, it depends. There was a point where after the 2008 crisis, there were banks that were giving out bonuses, and people were like, oh my God, if these banks are crashing, why are they handing out bonuses? Well, they were handing out bonuses and hiring people and giving them incentives to get them out from under the financial problems. If you worked hard enough and you were valuable in your job, you could actually help us solve this issue from the other side, right? So what happens if you don't know what anybody does for a living and you fire the very people that would make it more efficient and save the government money, as opposed to, because these are the newer people in, like all the DOGE people are, probationary hires. If they were hired to the government, they would qualify as probationary hires, right? So why are the people in all these other departments suddenly less worthwhile if they don't have, if it's an entrenched problem, if it's it's been going on forever, and every time you turn around, we've been trying to fix this for years and we can't do it. It wouldn't be the people who've been there the longest that you would think would be could solve the problem. It would be the new people who have got fresh ideas, but those are the people who are getting fired first. Now, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the people who are working there and have been working there for a long time have earned their keep and shown that they are good at their job for a very long time, and there's a hierarchy for a reason. And some of the new people might have great ideas, and they might not. They might even just view it as a temporary job because the government needs workers for a period of time, and that's why they're probationary, because they're not they have no intention of permanently, pulling their family out of Oklahoma and moving to D.C. or wherever they have to go to work on this. So there's a mix, but it will require, again, surgery and not a meat cleaver.
Did you come away with more of a process for how this was being put into law, go being DOGE identifying this and it being made?
Yes, as the chair of the DOGE committee, I am walking away with major tools that I can use. And
the room was full of tools.
Very much look forward to having impactful hearings. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have impactful hearings with tools. I hope to be one of those tools. I feel like I am a tool, I feel like that y'all don't understand what even a tool does, but we are working very hard. Jesus Christ. That is a, let's see, is this one long? Let me do another real short one. This is Tim Burchett from Tennessee. Now, who gives a shit about Tim Burchett from Tennessee? I agree. Maybe the people of Tennessee, but only just barely. What I would say is that, if you'll recall, Tennessee is where Elon Musk has his giant crypto mine posing as an AI facility. And he's getting, funding and support from the Trump administration by pretending it's an AI facility when it's really just a fucking crypto mining thing. And they're trying to make the government buy a bunch of crypto to guarantee its worth past a certain point and legitimize it by making it part of a government fiat currency. Mm-hmm. So anyways, he goes, Burchett says DOGE effort just starting after Musk meeting. Haven't even really cracked the nut.
We wanted to ask you about Elon Musk's message in there. What did he talk to you guys about? What was sort of the main message?
Mostly that, dumb people are outbreeding smart people, and it's something about a technocracy, and Hitler was misunderstood. I mean, I really wasn't listening, quite frankly.
Well, we talked about specifics of areas, and I don't want to discuss the specific parts of it, but
yeah, don't talk about the specific parts of the specifics. Just speak generally about the specifics, or specifically about generalities. That's what I love about this. It's the transparency.
It's very encouraging of the things that he's disclosing and where he's headed with this, because they haven't even really cracked the nut. You've got education in the Pentagon that are out there, and
yeah, first of all, the education funding isn't going to go anywhere near. You could get rid of the Department of Education entirely, and it's not going to do anything to the federal budget shortfall. And there's no fucking way they're going to let him comb the books in the goddamn Pentagon. Sorry. Not going to happen.
you know what time this thing started?
I know what time it ended. Right now.
Is there any sort of conversation or pushback, from folks who are getting questions at home?
They're going to push back because you've got congressmen on both sides of the aisle that if they follow that paper trail, it's going to come back to them. You got their wife and or girlfriend that works for some agency, quasi.
Oh, I see. So, does Marjorie Taylor Greene have a girlfriend now? Is that what?
Agency or some business, and I'll probably get a.
Well, why wouldn't? I'm probably gonna say because I said woman, I'm gonna get canceled.
Primary for saying that, but that's the truth, and we all know it. And this town's crooked as a dog's leg. Somebody's gonna straighten it out. Looks like it's gonna be Elon Musk.
This town's crooked as a dog leg. Look, how do I know? I'm here. Okay, government can't do shit. Right? Look at me. People gave me this job. If that doesn't scare the shit out of you, I don't know what does. The people of Tennessee put their faith in me to come up here, which just shows me that the American people are one of the most poorly educated, fucked up groups of people in the world. And the fact that they obviously they don't want me to hang around there. Maybe ultimately it means that the people of Tennessee want Tennessee to succeed, but they just want me the fuck out of there. So they sent me to D.C. They're like, he'll fit right in.
His phone number like you did for the senators.
You like to ask Marjorie about that?
And what about using the rescission?
I tell you, dude, you're going to say, will you call Elon? And I'm saying, no, I'm going to tell him
I'm not going to call Elon. Did he give you the number?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, did he give you the number?
I'm going on to your question.
What do you think about using the rescission package process, rescissions to codify some of this?
I think that's a avenue to take. I would like to do every dadgum one on there, but we don't have the guts to do it. So
yeah, we don't have the guts to do it. Mainly because if we did it, my constituents would freak the fuck out because I am the representative for Broketown, USA.
Happen?
I think it will eventually. I think America's going to demand it after that show the Democrats put on last night.
And so how do you get in touch
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, they didn't seem to give a shit.
with Mr. Musk if lawmakers do have any concerns about
Call him on the phone. Send up the bat signal.
Did he say anything to some of the concerned cities to slow down, a little bit more of a cautious approach?
No, I mean
the bat signal. Oh, because he's a insane billionaire. Okay.
I encouraged him to go as fast as possible because we're going to lose our guts. 100, 150 days, this bunch is going to... oh, man, that's cutting into my...
Anything?
There we go. 150 days. Oh, man, that's cutting into my... You think so? Start to recognize that this debt isn't just debt, that the money doesn't get thrown out, that it's not... that it. All of his Republican friends, who he apparently has no problem shitting on, they aren't taking this money as graft. They're literally patching holes in the budgets of their congressional district because they represent a bunch of fucking poor people who wouldn't get by without government help. And while those people, by the way, elect them to go to New York or go to D.C. and shit on people from New York and Chicago and L.A. and San Francisco, where the money comes from that pays for that little sum of mine that they're cutting into.
The recent VA cuts come up?
No, other than, we primarily discussed, we broke down some of the aspects of the people that are 100, 150 years old, and people overseas that are out of the country that are drawing a check, and how much that is, and just how substantial that is.
Well, how much is it? Also, Americans are allowed to retire outside the country, right? None of them are 150. They're not living in Thailand drawing a check till they're 150.
The 80,000 VA cuts that were made known today.
Well, they're going to, but I believe that they'll equal those out with the waste, abuse, and fraud.
Yeah, totally. We're going to find enough fraud to rehire all the people we fired from the VA.
And people start going back to work, I think that's going to take care of some of that. And the ones that choose not to, that'll come off that side of the ledger.
Thank you. Any talking about
Is
codifying?
that new, Dave? You doing something different?
I've curled my hair. Thank you.
I got girls. I noticed that stuff. And I found out who that Lily Pulitzer was pretty quick.
Was there any conversation in there about codifying the DOGE cuts? And did anyone say that they wanted
I don't know about in there, but when we were sure, that's what everybody talks about.
Did anyone say that they wanted that in the CR, though, even though Johnson's already said it's off the table?
You're talking about meeting with the president today or with Elon?
Elon.
Well, he's not going to make a decision on legislative type things. That's going to be up to us. Again, it goes back to that guts thing that we lack.
But did anybody?
I would like to see it. I would like to see it as soon as possible.
Did anyone in there say that they want to see?
Yes, that could happen. Okay, so what he's realizing is that vast majority of the stuff that they're claiming that they've made as far as cuts is going to be fucking pocket change compared to the budget. And if they're going to make any substantial cuts, it's going to have to go through Congress. And there's a reason why those cuts weren't made before. They weren't ignored. It's not that people don't know where the money is going. They know exactly where it's fucking going. They just don't get any points by going back to their constituents and going, hey, we got a huge country here. It's the most important country in the world. And of course our budget and our government are big because America is huge. We got 340 million people, but we are the biggest economy by far. We're the biggest military by far. We're the biggest point of industry on the whole fucking planet. And so, of course, our government's going to be more expensive. But we also get hit by natural disasters, and we have to pay for them and deal with them. Otherwise, if a storm blows a hole in your roof and you don't patch it, then black mold's going to claim the whole fucking thing. And so every time we get hit with something bad, we borrow money to fix it. And that's what we've been doing. We've been borrowing from ourselves in terms of the Social Security trust fund. But we're not, nobody here doesn't know where the money's going. They just don't want to cop to it. And here's what you're going to learn. 95% of it is totally fucking necessary. And the 5% is a pissing contest between the two sides. And the amount that everybody agrees on is waste, fraud, and abuse is going to be this fucking big. It ain't going to solve the problem. That's what all these guys are going to be dealing with over the next little bit. And I like that. That's one of the most honest moments I've seen from a Republican so far, that he said, although I don't give him 150 days, but 100 days to and he means from now. So I would argue the end of Trump's 100 days, or what he thinks is probably 50 days past that. They're in deep shit, and they know it. The DOGE cuts could be brutal and still not affect the $1 trillion mark at all. And that shit is not going to be in the budget, because if it is in the budget, it's going to cut stuff that affects red states more than it does blue states, and they're going to freak the fuck out. Trump didn't get smarter. You could argue that the American voter got dumber in this process, or easier to bait, or fell for it, or whatever the fuck. But Trump's ideas aren't going to work just because he won again. Tariffs aren't going to lower the cost of goods. There's not going to be a short period of pain followed by a big upswing in the golden age of America. It ain't happening. It'd be nice if it was, but if it does, it won't be this way. It won't be a fucking turf war with the rest of the planet, including our allies, and it won't be because we sucked up to Russia so they could get more oil back onto the market to drop the cost of a barrel of oil to $20 again, and artificially grease China, for that matter, because it's not, the United States doesn't need $20 a barrel oil to make industry grow. because we're not that big a country. We don't have to drive our shit that far across the country. And even when we do, we have other means to do it. It means a lot if you've got to get foodstuffs across Africa, or you've got to get fucking trucks of materials from Siberia to Moscow, that kind of stuff. That's where like fuel prices really are meaningful, or all over China, just getting goods anywhere in that fucking country. But that's not how the U.S. works. We've got train tracks. We've got airplanes. We've got FedEx. We've got trucks everywhere. And a good portion of them are increasingly efficient. So if oil went to zero, it still wouldn't change the fluid ingenuity and the material growth of our economy. Especially as people end up working more from home. And these guys know it. Republicans know it. Well, okay. Trump doesn't know it. Trump thinks whatever, scattered bits of information he's heard from 9 different people that have weaved themselves into his bullshit philosophy in his head are going to magically work out. And if you just give it some time, and if the poor people just suck it up for a little while the rich people dine comfortably during the rough spots, everything's going to be hunky-dory. And that will include a bunch of you being culled. Bunch of businesses going away, a bunch of old people going away, a bunch of sick people going away. Once you're gone, then, the machine will flow a lot better because we don't have to allocate resources to people not worth saving. The way Trump felt about his nephew's kid. It's like, why don't you let him die and buy a condo in Florida and just move down there? Stop spending all that money trying to keep him alive when you could use all that money to buy a piece of real estate. That's the mentality. And that's what he's extrapolating across Social Security. Trump doesn't believe in Social Security. He knows it's necessary as a political thing to shore up a big bunch of maggots. But if given, half a chance, he'd eliminate all of it and go, well, let them all croak. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you for sticking around a little bit later tonight. I know I kept you late. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Rob Glenn, I believe, is joining us in the morning for Friday Eye. Lots of stuff in that area. Oh, my God. There's SpaceX, and then there's Space O. Did you know there's a Space O as well? It's making robots that can lift 200 pounds. Did you know that? Did you know that basically no one's going to be coding for a living next year at all? Anybody who's studying coding or did for the last decade is going to be looking for a job. I recommend them being mechanical engineers for large infrastructure projects and robots and machinery and that kind of stuff, because that's somebody's going to physically have to put that stuff together. So that's the one thing you're going to be able to do. We're going to need Scotty. Just saying. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And don't worry. I don't think. Oh, you know what I did? I made a button for Operation Warp Speed, Operation Fart Steed.
Captain's log.
Finally, so that I don't have to push 2 buttons. I was very proud of myself. Because we're going to be talking a bunch over the next little bit, probably on the Saturday radio show, about how one of the people who's in charge of DOGE and is working at the DOGE organization is a friend of Jared Kushner's who helped run Operation Warp Speed.
Captain's log.
And the irony that Trump wants to brag about that, but if he brings it up, all of his people think he was participating in a plot to kill them all, is wonderful. And I think we have a responsibility to start touting Operation Fart Steed again.
Captain's log.
And remind everybody that Donald Trump, if they go, I don't like these vaccines because they were rushed, understand that Donald Trump not only rushed them, made a point of rushing them, said they were rushed, but also named it Operation Warp Speed because he wanted to show how fast they were going.
Captain's log.
So just... I think we should hit that. I'm just saying. Remind everybody, Operation Fart Steed, that was Trump.
Captain's log.
So, all right, now I fixed my button and I enjoy it and that kind of stuff. And I will see you guys very soon. I do have a button that actually ends the show at this point? I don't have a whole thing. So I still have to do on my own, I believe. Yes. That's what I'm working on tonight. That's got to be what it is. That's got to be it. Hit the like, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Share the show. And I will see you tomorrow morning for House Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Thanks, Instagram. You guys are awesome. See you tomorrow. Substack. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining me today. Look at that. We're getting close to like 100 people just in the Substack viewing alone. That's pretty sweet. Love you guys. There's a little heart button in the corner. Throw some hearts up, if you will. Hi, Mimi. Hi, Nelly. C-Sorb, what's happening? Kukuri, what's going on? There you go. And the Twitch people, love you guys. Throw those emotes in there, people. Let them know you're there. Fantastic. I think we're okay. Oh, yes.
When they gaze upon the Semites, action replays in magnified fortune.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
Michigan gave us Motan.
Would you classify that as a design?
Leon getting larger. That's what kind of fight it's gonna be.
You lied to me.
I'm just a happy camper. Something strange happened to me. Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sunbed robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little kickers at you? No. Am I the only person that has that dream?